love it. I'm so excited. I can see, I'd love to see faces. Anybody who's brave enough to be on video. I don't care if you're eating a sandwich or whatever. I just love to see faces as I go along so we can be here together. And also, you know, because when I see your faces, I can tell how the learning is landing and adjust as we go along. Yay, thank you, Melissa and Faye and Beth and Pam and Lori for all turning on their cameras. I'd love everybody to pop into the chat, introduce yourself quickly. We're gonna get going here pretty soon. Be prepared to take notes, be prepared to pay attention. And there is going to be a recording of this, but you're only going to have access for 7 days. This is your only time right now to ask questions as we go along. Make sure that you have taken it in. This webinar I developed basically because of special requests. I did another webinar and I mentioned something about hiring. And several people emailed me like, we want to know more about that. So that is why we are here today. And I am very excited. Oh, I see more familiar faces. Hi, Lisa. I'm very excited today to be welcoming Amanda and Sherry and Jennifer. If you guys could just wave in your videos. They're here to share their real life experiences with you in staffing up their organizations. And they are also here because they are what I call my thrivers. Who here is a thriver? Put thriver. If you feel like you are this new type of nonprofit leader, somebody who has a growth mindset, who goes and looks for their own opportunities, that thinks outside of the box, that pursues big goals, let me know. Let me know. Are you a thriver? Yes, Jennifer, I know you're a thriver. Beth, you meet most of the criteria. You don't have to meet all of them. Annie, you're a thriver. Most people who want to come learn from me are some kind of thriver because you're just not okay with the status quo. And at some point you've said to yourself, there's just got to be a better way. Yay, thrivers, Nancy, awesome. Okay, so my goals for today is in our very small amount of time together to give you confidence where there was once uncertainty around staffing up and hiring and basically just building a sustainable nonprofit that doesn't like drain the lifeblood from you. Clarity where maybe there was confusion about what you should do. We talk a lot about clarity and focus in the Thrive program. And to unlock within you your true potential for making the massive impact that I know your nonprofit can make if you just figure out a few key things about what to do when. And we're also going to cover all the things we talked about, including staffing strategies you can use right now, how to bootstrap your own growth, and the #1 staffing mistake I see nonprofits making all the time. But not to worry, if you've made this mistake, it's probably not your fault that you made it. But first, I want to make sure we get on the same page about something. And I'm assuming we will be, since so many of you are thrivers. But I really believe that quality is something that we just can't afford to sacrifice. So put a Q or a quality in the chat or a yes if you agree that quality is really important. Quality is important in our services. I know Amanda, who's here, wave your hand, Amanda. We've had this conversation, right? Just because you offer social services, therapeutic services that are free to your clients, are they low quality? No, right? You offer incredibly high quality. Just because people are poor doesn't mean they deserve bad stuff. They need great stuff. And for all of you, yes, I see 100% true. Yes, my quality folks here. And my commitment to you is I believe in giving quality information, quality ideas, quality tactics, things that passed my logic test, like logically does this work? Things that are, I want to make sure everybody, can you make sure you've muted yourself? And things that you can take to the bank, right? Things that actually work when you implement them and aren't just big ideas. And I certainly would never regurgitate anything that I didn't believe 100% would work. So I want to ask you for something today, because I love training and teaching, but I like results more, right? My Thrivers here from the Thrive program, you know how much I push all of you supportively and kindly, but push nonetheless to take action and get results, because all of the time I spend creating amazing information does nothing in the world if it doesn't get used. So I want to know from you, you know that staffing, having enough staff is important, right? Right? You know that. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. So what I want to know from you, put a C or a yes or a commit in the chat. If you'll commit, if you learn something today that you can use, that you will use it. Can you make me that promise? Yes. C. Yes, you will. You will. You will. Then, because if you do that, then the time I spent to put this together for you was worth it. So we know it's important to have more staff, but why? And this is how we get to part of the quality information. We need to understand why things are the way they are before we can often really make them work for us. I want to tell you about a concept I'm calling it the cheap trap. And so many nonprofits have fallen into the cheap trap because of this. Have you ever received the message, somehow been told explicitly or implicitly, that as a nonprofit, you have to be cheap? Right? We don't get nice stuff. We don't spend, I see nods. Let me know in the chat too. Yes, yes, you've been told this. It's not great, but we've all been told it. But I'm going to show to you right now, I'm going to prove to you why being here, being in the cheap trap is in fact a trap and will prevent you from thriving. So has anybody ever seen this triangle? So this triangle I learned in business training somewhere. Yes, it's a false societal expectation that we have to be cheap. I love that, Annie. And this is why. So you can have something that's good and cheap, but it won't be fast. You can have something that's fast and cheap, but it won't be good. Or you can have something fast and good, but it's not going to be cheap. Now, here's what happens for nonprofits, right? We're told we need to live in the cheap corner. Well, this part of the triangle here, we have to sacrifice quality. And we've already agreed that sacrificing quality is not okay, right? And it's not okay for any business. And in fact, here's what happens just in general. When you sacrifice quality, you might have a temporary thing that's okay, and then it's not sustainable because it's always going to lead to less impact, less money, and less time. Are you with me on that? Can I get a thumbs up? Hell yeah. Yep, you're with me on that, right? So how about this other side of the triangle? Can we hang out over here? That's where a lot of us, I think, are. Well, we'll just invest the time, we'll work hard, and we'll be cheap but good. But here's the problem specifically for nonprofits. For-profits don't really have this problem for the most part. They can hang out here as they grow. But when we sacrifice time to be in the cheap but good section, we're slow. And what is the cost of being slow for a nonprofit? You can put it in the chat if you want to put a guess before I display it. Cost of being slow is money, but there's a cost, less impact. Yes, people suffer. Depending on your mission, when you're slow, kids are going hungry. People are dying of cancer. Animals are suffering. Our planet is being destroyed. This kind of sacrificing time specifically for nonprofits is not okay. And by the way, I'm just about done teaching this triangle. You can take this very lesson I'm teaching you now and teach it to your donors so they understand why you need more money and why you're going to spend that money on things that get you quality quickly. So see, if we're in the cheap corner, we're killing people, we're hurting the environment, or we're leading to our total doom by living down here. It is truly a trap. So we can't be there. We just can't be there as nonprofits. And if we want to thrive, if we want to make a bigger impact, we have to live on the other side of this triangle and escape from the cheap trap. And the beautiful thing about living on this other side of the triangle is, yes, we have to invest money, but what happens when we invest money and get something that's good and we get it quickly? The result is almost always more time. And with more time, we bring in more money. And with more money, we make a bigger impact. So now, instead of being in the cheap trap, we're in this self-renewing cycle of more. So if anybody wasn't a thriver a few minutes ago, I hope you're going, oh my God, put me in the thriver side of the triangle right now. Sherry, I wanted you to share a quick story for us about your experience living in the cheap trap and then investing and moving over to the other side of the triangle.
Sure. I'm happy to tell you all I will never regret investing in my own training. First, as a new executive director, I was overwhelmed, never been in this position, and I knew I needed help. So I found Sarah, and then I thought, oh, I can't afford her. But my board decided we could take the leap and hire Sarah. And she encouraged me to hire an assistant as soon as possible, but I was worried we didn't have enough money. We'd already invested in this program. So I wasted hours trying to do it on my own. I actually went through 2 different assistants in 2 years that were wrong fits. And it was literally just 3 months ago that I finally decided to invest in the right hire, as Sarah had advised me a couple years ahead of time. And I hired great assistant to find me an executive assistant, and they use a Colby test. They did all these things. And now I have this amazing person helping me, and she and I have accomplished more in 3 months than I had done with those other 2 assistants in 2 years. And now she's going to be with me at my largest event coming up and do over 30 to 40% of the work I would have been doing. So what I'm saying is I spent more money in the last 2 years wasting my time trying to do it than just investing initially. So my encouragement to you is just don't wait. It is well worth it. If you feel like you need help, the Thrive program is a great place to be.
Yeah, I love that example. Another Sarah here. Hi, Sarah. Sarah's always have like a thing. To invest, and then boom, right? The money and the time and everything starts coming back. And I know recently, because Sherry had just a little more time in her day, she was able to implement another strategy and raised $11,000. Like,
yeah, in a couple weeks.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks with just a couple hours invested in. But I don't think you would have had that time if you hadn't had the assistant.
No.
So from now on, now that you know the cheap trap, you cannot fall into the cheap trap. Please, please, please. So, and a quick warning though, like just Sherry shared just such a real story, right? She kind of half escaped, but then she wasn't ready to plunge into the next half of going to hire an assistant, but not just hiring an assistant, paying for a service to make sure she got the right assistant quickly. And at first, it's really easy to underestimate like how many resources you really need. So many organizations say, oh, well, we need more money. We need like $100,000 more. And when we run the numbers, really, I'm like, yeah, you really need like 2 million, right? Not 100,000. But that's okay. But I just want you to know that it's a journey, right? It's a thriving journey to get all the way to that other side of the triangle. And it's great to do that with support. But that's just my little side tip. It is not the #1 mistake that most nonprofits are making when it comes to staffing up. And I'm going to tell you that right now, and then we're going to get to the 4-part strategy to help you staff up. So here's the thing. Nonprofits are more complicated than for-profits. I know Joan Gary says nonprofits are messy, but I think that's just a symptom of this, and it doesn't have to be true. I see Amanda nodding. You run a decently sized nonprofit. Does it have to be messy? No, she says no. So here's why. For-profits are basically just making money pie. They make something, people buy it for money, it's self-regenerating, right? It's basically, for-profits are way easier. I know we're all told to have FOMO and think that for-profits are better, but they're not. They're just easier because they're more simple. Nonprofits have this two-part business model going on. You're making the money pie, but you're also making the mission pie. Sometimes the mission pie makes a little money. There's a lot going on here, but basically you've got twice as much stuff going on. They're interconnected. You've got more people, different audiences you're talking to, plus you have a board. It is way more complex. And so the number one mistake though, because we all love, most of us here love mission pie more than money pie. Even me, even though technically I run a for-profit, like I don't run the most lucrative for-profit business because I serve nonprofits. I've been told many times, Sarah, just go serve for-profits and you'll make a lot more money. But I love mission pie, right? Probably like all of you. Let me know if you love mission pie in the chat. Mission pie, I see hands, right? We love our mission pie. But the biggest mistake that nonprofits make is in growing our mission pie before we grow our money pie. And then this happens. We've got a big old mission pie to support, and we've got a teeny little money pie. And then we say things like, we're so sad because we don't have enough money. Oh, go away, Descript. What is my tech today? We don't have enough money, and then we end up stuck in the cheap trap. And we don't want to be in the cheap trap because everything gets worse once we're in the cheap trap. So the thing we need to do is keep these two things in balance. And the actual way to keep your mission pie and your money pie in balance, like really, this is the work of the leadership team of any nonprofit, is to keep both of these things running in balance. And the way to do that is actually to always be growing money pie first, because money pie self-generates. And when we do fundraising, this is fundraising, right? Money pie. In case anybody didn't pick that up explicitly, when we do fundraising well, it brings in enough money to both grow itself and grow our mission pie. Some of you might be really small. Jennifer here is going to tell us what it feels like to be a really small organization. Might be saying, but what if I can't afford to invest anything? Well, if you really invest nothing, you will end up in the cheap trap in that bottom line, and you will be going out of business. You will not be making an impact. What you can do will get less and less and less until you finally sink and are nothing. And that is why you can't afford not to invest. So how do you invest even if you feel like you can't afford to invest? One, if you have any reserves whatsoever, if your money pie is too small to support what you're doing, if your money pie is not growing, you use those reserves, all of them if you have to invest and get your money pie growing. If you don't have any reserves or you don't have enough reserves, you take out a line of credit. Never, never, never take out a line of credit to invest in your mission pie, because that isn't bringing more money in. If you're borrowing money, whatever you're doing with that money better be generating more money to pay back the loan. But money pie will do that. It is okay to take out a line of credit. And if you really have to, you stop making mission pie. I know this crushes all of our souls because we love the mission pie. But if you don't grow your money pie, you're going to have no mission pie anyway. So it is better to pause. I'll say pause because it sounds so nice, right? We're going to pause making mission pie, grow our money pie, and then start making mission pie again once we're able to do both. So there is really no way that you cannot afford to invest in growing your money pie. Jennifer has this great analogy about how the icebergs and nonprofits. And Jennifer, can you just share with us briefly, like, how small is a small nonprofit for you, and how important is it that you invest in the foundation, the money pie, and everything else?
So when I first came to Sarah, we were bringing in for the year less than $80,000 a year. So that's teeny tiny, tiny, tiny. But it was so important because we had come to a point where we only had $18,000 in reserves. And the board said, you need to pay yourself all $18,000. Well, at that point, what do? You're going to have to shut down. And we work with underserved kids. And at that time, we were working with about 400 children. So that would displace 400 kids. And so we decided to invest the money into Sarah's program. And since then, every year we keep growing Money Pie, right? And we've also grown Mission Pie, but they're in sync.
Yeah. And Jennifer was actually just telling me yesterday, that that she wasn't even trying to grow her Mission Pie, and it's just growing on its own. And we see that byproduct all the time as you start to get everything running smoothly, as you start to deal with that complexity and have amazingly efficient systems for managing and running your whole nonprofit, things start working. It feels kind of like magic, but it's actually a byproduct of getting underneath this iceberg and having a really solid foundation for how you run your nonprofit. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So are you ready to learn how you can grow that Money Pie? And that is what we do first, and your Mission Pie too. Are you ready? Give me a yes in the chat. If you're ready, if you're lost on something, let me know now. Speak now. It's a new training. I don't know where people are getting lost. I see yeses. I see okays. Okay, we're ready. If you're lost, let me know. So here's the thing. People are the fuel that make your nonprofit run, but they're not the engine. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this, because you might be thinking like, what do you mean, Sarah? Like they're not the engine? So within every nonprofit, or under it, if you want to think of the iceberg, there is a structure, right? Kind of like a machine. And I'm going to show you what this machine looks like. And that is the structure, the way your leadership is organized, the things that need to happen in your nonprofit for it to run. Recording will be available for 7 days, TJ. So the people I said they're the fuel, they're kind of like the operators, right? They are running the machine, but they are not the machine itself. And in fact, does it really work out when in any system where we've tried to treat people like machines or cogs in a wheel? Does that really work? Anybody? Yes or no? No, it doesn't really work to treat people like machines. So you're going to need this concept for me to teach you part 1 of the 4-part framework for staffing up. The first is you need to create a blueprint of this underlying structure. And right now I'm going to teach you what that blueprint is not, the key points of having a blueprint that is for a thriving nonprofit, all the key things you need to have, which part of that blueprint makes Money Pie, and the other parts, and the 2 types of roles that you need to think about filling in your blueprint. So let's go. So first of all, your blueprint is not an org chart. And if I could just reach into your brains and like delete the knowledge that you ever learned about org charts, I would do it, because org charts are this paradigm that come from, what do they call it? The industrial age, right? Where we try to treat people like machines, but they create all sorts of problems, right? So, but people are not machines, and they are not the underlying structure of your nonprofit, but an org chart treats people as though they are the underlying structure. And from that, we get things like it's some, whose job, or I have to fulfill a role, right? But the reality is humans are each individual, unique combinations of experiences and culture and character and all sorts of wonderful things. Is everybody with me? That human beings are all unique. We all have similarities, but as a whole package, they're each unique. And so what happens when we use this org chart method, I'll use specifically, like, let's say we're doing succession planning and we're talking about a CEO. Well, this woman here, I'll call her Sherry, and I'll call him Bill, right? If Sherry is the structure and the person, when we swap out Sherry for Bill, we are risking so much, right? We're dramatically changing. We're changing the structure and the people at the same time. And that's so much change. It can be destabilizing. And it's also not realistic. I could probably take all day to just wax on about how org charts are not really helpful. So the key is having a blueprint, which are the parts of the machine. Megan, you're welcome. It is my pleasure to articulate that. And I'm going to go in further right now, and I want to show you what this blueprint looks like. So I have developed blueprints for many nonprofits. And I even used to think, well, maybe, each one is a little bit different. And then I said, well, maybe they're only different for small, medium, and large nonprofits. And then over the years, I'm doing this again and again, I realized, you know what? Every nonprofit, at least that wants to be a thriving nonprofit, needs the exact same blueprint. The only difference is how many people it takes to run all the parts of the machine. If you are small, a couple of people can run the whole machine. If you are large, you need a lot of people to run the machine, but the machine has the same parts no matter what size. Just like if anybody is mechanical out there, right? Like an engine needs fuel, spark, and air to run. And it doesn't matter if it's a teeny little one-cylinder engine or a very large complex engine, all engines need the same basic things to run. So in the Thrive program, Sherry, Jennifer, and Amanda have all worked with a full-fleshed version of this, but these are the actual seats we teach. Don't have time today to go inside each one. But what you'll notice about this is each seat is about an outcome, right? So this seat over here, the right direction, is about ensuring that you're going in the right direction. This seat is about ensuring that you have the right amount of capacity and that you're going the right speed for what that capacity is. Over here, this seat is about ensuring that you have the right fundraising strategy. Here is making sure that you have the right programming strategy to achieve your impact. Ellen is asking, like the business model for Canvas for nonprofits. It's a little like that, but actually a business model Canvas is more like, is more akin to a strategic plan actually than to this. This is more about what are the key functions that need to happen for a nonprofit to run well. And I don't know that there is an equivalent to this. Exactly. So here we have, this is the area, this is the part that makes the money pie, and this is the part that makes the mission pie. And all these other parts are really important too, because they facilitate the making of the mission pie and the money pie, but they're kind of interrelated, right? So those are the parts that we need to be aware of. So if we want to be making more money pie, we need to get more people into those money pie functions. Now, there are two roles that we can fill on this. I call it kind of the head role, meaning you're going to actually own that function. A human being is going to be responsible for that function. Nancy asked, where's marketing comms? So we'd have to do a whole nother training on that, but it's in there between the deciding on the programs. Let me just go back and deciding on the marketing actually lives in here and in here. Which is partly what makes marketing complex in nonprofits. But it's a great question. I'd love to go into that more on another training. So we have heads who are going to own the seats, and we have hands who are going to assist with the seats. Now, a person is not a role. Right? A person is not a role. A person is a person. So I, as a person, could be the head role in one part of the machine and the hands role in another part of the machine. Right? So here's what we start. We can start labeling our machine with who's the head of each seat. And are there additional hands, who are helping? Now, we don't want to let just anybody operate this masterpiece of our nonprofit machine. And that is where we get into part 2 of our 4-part framework, which is we need team alignment. So we're going to go into what's involved with having team alignment. So we're going to talk about who needs to be in alignment, what to align your team around, and the surprising truth about getting your team aligned. So first, who needs to be in alignment? Jennifer, I think you said this the other day, or maybe it was you, Sherry, so clearly, right? It's not just employees. Our contractors need to be in alignment. Our board members need to be in alignment. Our donors, our funders, our volunteers, our clients. We may like to think we can help everybody, but there are certain people who are a better fit for us, right? And they're just like, you might see 2 doctors, they both went to great medical schools. They might have the same great reputation, but one doctor you're just going to gel with better than the other. And when you gel better with that doctor, you're going to probably end up getting better results because you're more in alignment with that doctor. So it's important that we think alignment at every step of the way. And if you become interested in joining the Thrive program, you will find that I will make sure that you are in alignment with how we work at Pivot Ground before I even give you the chance to join the program. Because if you are not, it's not going to be a good fit and you're not going to get good results. So what do we line people around? Now, in the Thrive program, we have like this really cool way that gets at it so well, but I don't have time to teach that today. So what I am going to tell you is that you need to have a well-defined internal brand, right? It's the sense of who you are as an organization, as though your organization were a person. How do you like to behave? What do you believe in? How do you show up? If you want to research this on your own, most of this kind of stuff is going to be found in stuff under core values. Unfortunately, core values are kind of fraught with some issues. We don't have time to go into that in depth, but I'll just say that core values tend to be a mix of beliefs and choices about behavior. And as human beings, it doesn't really matter if we distinguish between the two, but as organizations, if our core values are like all beliefs, that's great if we want to build a cult. But if we ask everybody to align with us around, mostly around behavior, as opposed to belief, that's how we build a great aligned team without building a cult. And a little note from Jennifer, quick warning here. You're really small, right? But I know Jennifer invested in getting this work done by an outsider. I did it. That's how I know she did it. But Jennifer, what was the difference between just trying to do it on your own and having an outside perspective?
Well, the outside person, although they like what you do, Sarah likes what we do, and she cares about what we do. But you know, when you have somebody that's on the outside, they're not as invested in it, and they have this much wider thing. So they can come and they can say, not really. Whereas people inside your organization, they kind of, you're the CEO or you're the executive director. They, yes, because they don't want pushback, but pushback is good because it makes you stronger.
Yeah, love that. And I was even saying, you know, even though I could facilitate these for folks all day long, to do it on myself, it doesn't matter how much I know about it. It's very hard to do it for my own business because I can't be the outside perspective for myself. Thank you. So what is the surprising truth about getting your team aligned, right? Your existing team, or maybe you inherited a team like Amanda did. You may have to let people go. And that's not a really fun process, but it actually doesn't have to be so bad. And so I'm going to ask Amanda and then Sherry to share just a little bit about their real experiences of letting people go. Go ahead, Amanda.
Thanks, Sarah. I would say we inherited some people on our team who were such amazing professionals in a lot of ways and also did not align with our behavior of transparency, easy communication, honesty. And I think it's so hard to have that conversation. But in the end, it's like a huge weight is lifted, and then you start to learn how that person affected so many other things in the organization. So you start having meetings with people, not just in their own department, but others, and learn sort of how that person might have affected their own attitude toward the agency or their own sort of assumptions about the agency, because that person had been there for so long. So it's hard to be the new, executive director, but just sticking with your values and like building the team of people who are aligned with your values really helps everybody kind of see this doesn't have to be so hard and so dramatic and so secretive. We're all just trying to do the best work that we can.
Yeah. And I want to, because I told everybody already you're a thriver, and in a very thriver mode. Did you do that all by yourself, or did you have support figuring?
I had phenomenal support. I have a really strong person who I'd call like my deputy director. That's not her title, but she is sort of where I'm like the direction. She makes sure everything's running smoothly, kind of like a lately been using the term project manager. And for us to be, there's no daylight between us in how we agree that an agency can be run so well and with such power. Like there's such power to having everything feel really good, and when your values are aligned. So the first thing we actually did was trim the mission pie to something more sustainable and more easily explainable. And once we did that, the funds started coming as it's easier to sort of articulate why we're here, what we're doing, and why we're unique. And that's really been super special.
Yeah, love that example. And Sherry, do you want to tell us a little about your experience letting people go?
Sure. As I said, when I first started, we were a small organization, not a lot of employees, and I needed an assistant, but rather than spend the money and be courageous to hire a professional, I just put a post on Facebook, and I thought, I know some people that can assist me. So a personal friend that I'd known for several years said, oh, I know a little bit about bookkeeping. I could go to your PO box. So I hired her, but very quickly it just became tense. And I know she was going through personal struggles. She has 5 kids and she wasn't doing anything wrong, but we talk a lot in the Thrive program about, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And I quickly could see that she got most of what we were doing, didn't necessarily want it. I think she was doing me a favor, and she did not have the capacity or the mindset to do it. But I was dreading having a conversation and saying, I don't think this is working, because I had a personal connection to her. And when I finally just got the strength to do it, and I said, listen, I want to give you the freedom to move in any direction. I don't know that this is a right fit. She literally teared up and started crying because she was so relieved, because she didn't want to let me down. She didn't want to say she had to go. So I do encourage you to follow your gut and have those tough conversations. But I definitely bounced it off the Thrive group and other people before going into that. So I was prepared for the conversation. But we also learn and talk about hire slow, but fire fast. If it's not a right fit, don't continue on and keep affecting the organization.
Yeah, that's such true and good advice. But it's one of those things, right? We talk about information you can take to the bank. It's easy to say that, but it's hard to do that, which is why I ended up developing a whole training, not just on hiring, but how to fire compassionately. And I know Sherry used that. I can't remember, Amanda, if you ended up using that at some point. I think you did that, the process of firing, letting people go compassionately. Okay, part 3 of our 4-part framework. I know you're like, where's the hiring? We haven't even hired anybody yet, right? This is because that iceberg that Jennifer talks about, right? We have to have a strong iceberg, and we're going to get to hiring. But first, before we hire, we're going to optimize our existing team. And we're not going to do it once. We're going to do it before every hire. Any hire, we're always going to make sure we're shoring up the best of what we have already. So when we are thinking through this, we need to ask ourselves these 2 questions. Have we fully staffed our money pie, right? Or do we have enough people in there? We just look at the picture now, right? If we literally, we use this blueprint like a chart and we stick people's names or photos on it. So it becomes pretty clear if nobody is on it. And then we need to ask, well, as we're developing our hiring strategy, or moving our internal team around, do we need heads owning those seats, or do we just need more hands, or how can we do a combination of the 2 to fill the seats that we need? So I just wanted to do a couple examples right here, and we're almost getting into the hiring area. So I want you to think about looking at this chart right here. Is this organization, right, with no other information, can you tell me, do you think this organization has enough money? Let me know in the chat. Do you think they have enough money? Yeah, no. In fact, of every organization who has ever come to me and said, Sarah, our number 1 problem is we don't have enough money. When I have done their blueprint, nobody was sitting in the money seat. Once you do it, it kind of looks stupidly obvious, but it wasn't beforehand, which is the power of making something seen, making something visual. So let's pretend this is a really small nonprofit like Jennifer's, right? We have very little budget. We basically have, this guy's probably the executive director, right? He's owning all the seats, but he just isn't really able to sit in this seat. So if this is a small organization, we could do a couple things. Clearly, we need somebody owning fundraising strategy because that pulls the levers for a lot of these. And the other thing I know about fundraising, sneak extra lesson here, is I put these 3, sometimes I teach them as 4, in the order of what's the most profitable. So donor-based fundraising is the most good, bestest, most efficient at making money pie. If you're only doing one thing, do this. The next best thing at making money pie is sponsorships, and that's not right for every nonprofit. And the least good at making money pie, but still possible, it's more like icing, money icing, is grants. So one move, we could just move this guy up here to donor fundraising. But I'm going to guess that he's a little stressed out and overwhelmed because he's doing like all these other things. So probably this organization, though, can't afford to have 2 executive directors. Like Jennifer, could your organization afford to have 2 big time leaders? No. So what we're going to do instead maybe is hire an assistant like Sherry did to be those hands. And if we have an assistant helping in most of these seats, now we can squeeze a little more time available for this overworked executive director to move into a fundraising seat, or we could even move him off temporarily. We can say these programs will do what they do for the moment. We'll move them in here. And then as we get more money pie, we can start growing the team. Can I get into why we would consider grants to be the weaker fundraising method? Not today, we don't have time, but I'd love to another time. But they definitely are. If you consider the cost to raise $1, grants are much more expensive. Let's take this other organization. Maybe this organization is a little more like Amanda's, right? We got an assistant. We have a couple, we've got this clearly was wonderful assistant who's helping out our leader here do all sorts of things. We've got, maybe this is a contractor, maybe it's a, a part-time staff member doing grants. We've got, and here I'm seeing like another leader who can lead programmatic strategy. But I'm going to guess here that this executive director is feeling a little overwhelmed. Now they already have an assistant. So what kind of moves might we make here? Well, internally, I'm going to guess, right? We have to actually get to know these real people to do this work for real. But I'm going to guess that this woman over here, I'll call her Jen, that Jen is a very capable leader, but she's only sitting in one head role. And so I might ask Jen, and you can use this to have a conversation with your whole team, like, hey, Jen, we all have all these other seats I'm sitting in. Do you want to sit in any of them? Do you want to be the head of any of these other functions? Run these other parts of our blueprint? And maybe Jen says, oh yeah, in fact, and I mean, this is often true, someone who's really good at programmatic strategy is probably really good at this over here and could take a big weight off of our fearless leaders' shoulders here and free them up to focus more on here. And then maybe we could add another leader. Now, I'll tell you, besides just overall being under-resourced and understaffed, so many nonprofits, even large nonprofits, are deficient on people who can be leaders or heads, in the sense that they have people who are comfortable owning an outcome, owning a result that they don't have direct control over. And that's a result of trying to be cheap and hiring. We don't end up paying. It often costs more to get someone who's ready to own that kind of outcome. A couple questions. Would it make more sense to hire a fundraising person instead of an admin? I'm so glad you asked that question. So let's just go back here for a second. If we have a function that basically hasn't been run, like a part of our machine here is basically broken, it's covered in cobwebs, or it needs to be assembled. If we put a brand new person in this, we could do that. That is a fast way, but it is a risky way, because the new person still may not be a perfect fit, and they're now building part of the machine. So I would rather have someone else start getting this part of the machine together and hire someone to fill up a part of the machine that's already running well, and then replace the machine that's already going, then replace who's running it with somebody new. Another way, if you have a lot of money, is to actually hire a consultancy or an agency who will come and help design your systems with you, and then fill the position after. But if you're going to hire someone who's capable of building this, you're going to spend a lot of money, and you may not hire the right person the first time. I've totally seen that happen. Amanda, you're nodding your head. Have you seen this happen? And it might cost you a few hires to make that happen. And do I have a graphic template for the blueprint? I can give you this version. The full detailed version with all the things that go into each part of the machine is available in the Thrive program. Yes, Sarah, you're so true. This is doing many times the duty, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. The less obvious terms in the chart. I'm not sure which one. Oh, optimum speed and direction, maybe. I'll give one. But we could do a whole training on this, and I don't have time for that whole training. But Nancy, I know you want to know. So, but I'll just say leverage means it's as good as it can be for the resources we have, so that we're using our money, right? A lot of people say finances and they think, oh, we're just counting the money, right? I don't care that much if you count the money. The IRS cares if you count the money. But I want to know, are you using the money in the best way possible? Okay, quick quiz. I know everybody hates quizzes, but I thought I'd throw one in. Jolene, a staff member, quits. Do you A, start looking for a replacement for Jolene, or B, assess and optimize your blueprint and your current team? Yay, B. Okay, I know it's working. Excellent. I think we're running short of time, but I was hoping Amanda might share a story, but I'm going to move along. Can you do it in 30 seconds, Amanda? Your story about somebody quit recently, I know. And it was, you were like, oh my God, I'm so excited they quit.
Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking about somebody who quit a few years ago, and really allowed us to move other people up into their position while maintaining their current jobs. And when that kind of thing happens, you can sort of, you're not overwhelming the person, you're giving them a promotion, but you're also sort of taking the strategy piece and putting it with their handwork.
Yeah.
The best thing you ever said to me was the difference between brain and handwork. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so now part 4, we're actually going to hire some staff. Maybe, if you did all that stuff, and you very well may find if you're doing things well, you don't actually need to hire every time somebody quits. But most nonprofits are understaffed, so probably you will need to hire. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. I cannot teach you. There's inside the Thrive program, there's like a 4-hour course on this and a whole manual, but I'm going to show you the basic hiring process I recommend and the 5 keys to hiring success. So here we go. The hiring process. 1, confirm hiring readiness. You just took a quiz on this, right? So we do want to make sure we've shored up. We are really ready to hire. We've done all that optimizing. 2, we need to prepare to hire. Hiring's a lot of work. We got to write that job description, post that job. And yes, you have to promote it like crazy. It's marketing, right? Doing job posts, that's all marketing. We hold training, right? Like on how the job post is a piece of marketing material. It should have a headline, not just a description at the top. And then you want to select, you want to do your best job selecting. You're going to use your internal brand work that you did to help you go through this process. You're going to conduct interviews. I know in the training I created a whole interview template on how to get your internal brand stuff into your interview questions. You're going to make an offer. Hopefully that offer will be accepted. And then the process is not over. You need to verify that what you did worked, because even though we can do all these things to beat the odds and try to hire a great person the first time, it doesn't always happen. So you want to onboard that person to give them, oh, yep, I have a spelling mistake in here, clearly. That happens to me, and I can't see them anymore, but I try not to let it get in the way of the big impact we're all making. So we need to verify that we got the right person. We need to give them great onboarding, because even the right person with bad onboarding, could be terrible, because it could be our fault. We want to lay out our initial offer as we're going to do like a 90-day trial period. And assuming that goes well, and we've done a review at the end of that 90 days, then we offer the permanent position. Some positions, if they're not like salaried positions, we don't need to do this, because we can just know that we can let them go. And then we want to celebrate and really make sure that person feels welcome into our team. Now, the 5 keys to hiring success are: hire for team alignment first. It doesn't matter what their skills or qualifications are for a specific position if they're not a good fit for the team. So first check that before you get excited about they have all this development experience or what. First, just make sure they're a good team fit. 2, you have to have an effective selection process. You're going to spend a lot of time training and onboarding wrong fit people, or you won't attract the right people through that process. And that brings us to number 3, which is, as much as they are wanting a job from you, you need to sell you to them, because the best people have options, right? And they want to know if you're good for them. You got to onboard and verify. It's a really important part of the process. And you need a great pool of candidates. And one of the things we teach in the Thrive program, in the Building Your Dream Team, Hiring Your Dream Team training, is that you should actually always be building a pool of candidates before you even need them. And you might go, well, I don't know what job I'll need. Well, if we build a pool of people who are a great team alignment, those people will attract more people and more people. And then when we need a specific experience, we have less work in this whole marketing, and we have a pool of people we can reach out to. So far, we have learned the critical importance of quality. why you must avoid the cheap trap, the number one mistake most nonprofits are making when it comes to hiring, why you need to always grow your money pie before your mission pie, why you should ditch the org chart paradigm, the key parts of a thriving nonprofit's blueprint, the two types of roles, heads and hands, right? Amanda will say that's like the one maybe you should write down. The importance of having an aligned team. She might also say that's the one you should write down. What to align your team around. The truth about letting people go. It's not fun, but it's actually really has great results for both people. The hiring process that we teach in the Thrive program, and the 5 keys to hiring success. And I think there were probably a lot more tips along the way. So my first question for you is, did we deliver some quality information today? Did you get something that you can take to the bank? We got some yeses. Yeses. Okay. I've got some more for you. Are you happy you came? Yay. I'm so glad you all came live. Can you see yourself using what I showed you today? And I need to know this too. Give me on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, you can totally use it. 1, you can't. You won't hurt my feelings. But I want to make sure that this information, that it makes you feel like, yes, I could see myself using this. I know I couldn't teach you everything of everything in an hour, but if I can inspire you to take action, then I think it's an hour well spent. Yes, awesome. Thank you for the feedback. Do you feel more confident about investing your money, in investing any money in growing your organization? Anybody feel more confident? This is such a scary one. Jennifer, you were saying the other day, oh, we have some yeses. Yeses, good, pretty much, yeah. It's always scary, right? My Thrivers, raise your hand. Are you still scared when you do it? Yeah, but do we do it anyway? Yep, we do. I can't say you shouldn't be scared, but I can say you can be scared and do it anyway. Do you realize, I know some of you said this already, do you realize how powerful switching from the org chart paradigm to the blueprint paradigm is? It lets us treat people as people. And when we do that, there's so much we can maximize. And maybe you're like some like Sherry and Amanda and Jennifer, maybe you'd like to spend more time together going even deeper into these things. And everything I showed you today. I know, Nancy, you had so many great questions. Yes, Naomi, this makes so much sense. Yes. So we're almost done here, and I'm going to leave you with 2 choices, right? So you can do this stuff on your own. Sherry would say, don't do it on your own. Or we can do it together. I guess you could do it with somebody else too. I care less who you do it with and more that you do it with support and that you do it good and fast. But I would like to work with all of you who have identified as Thrivers. And we can do it all together, right? When I ask people to join the Thrive program, I qualify them to make sure they're a good fit, because I feel that when we do this, we are doing this in partnership, right? I care very deeply about every Thriver's success. And with the Thrive program, we can give you the complete blueprint. We can be that outside consultant to pull out your internal brand. We can give you the tools to assess your team. There's lots and lots of tools we have that make it quick and easy. We can give you the complete guide to hiring and so much more. We do it in the Thrive program. And I've got some really interesting things I want to show you about how we make this happen, right? So we said that nonprofits are more complex. And this is what ends up happening. We're in this game of whack-a-mole, right? Like, anybody here right now, say me if you're playing the game of whack-a-mole a bit, right? One thing pops up and the next thing. This is the work of running a nonprofit, but we want to give ourselves the opportunity. Yes, ugh. We want to start winning at the game of whack-a-mole. And while I may not be able to promise that you'll be able to stop playing altogether, I can give you a few more mallets to play this game. And the way we do this is we need to be getting twice the results from half the work. but not like this, right? We're not, this is really good. How do we do that? Well, today I taught you the blueprint, and we all agreed the blueprint was so powerful. And when we teach the full blueprint in the Thrive program, where I teach the impact method, some of you may have heard about, that same blueprint is also going to be a tool to develop your team into leaders, into new roles, develop their training. It's a way to measure success. We have it as a way to train and report to your board. I use this in a board retreat, and board members are like, oh my God, now I understand everything my executive director has been trying to tell me. And it takes very little time for them to go, oh, now I get it. We can use it as a tool in developing strategic plans, right? So now we're doing not just twice as much, we're doing 5 times as much with one tool. Same with, we talked about alignment today, right? This is very important. Well, and I told you we have this kind of very specific, powerful way of doing it. It does 5 times the job as the work that goes into it. It's also a way to develop fundraising appeals. It's a shortcut to content for all your marketing, like what needs to go on your website, what you should put in emails. Sherry's little fundraiser she did, raising $11,000. She used this core component, and because she had that done, it was easy to write all those emails. To always be prepared to talk to donors or potential donors. We had just had someone ran into a random stranger at a birthday dinner, and turned out they'd be a great person to talk to, and to really make your mission stand out from the crowd. Naomi, you can catch the replay. And we also, didn't even have time to go in this today, but in the Thrive program, we teach the impact method. We do this same thing because once you have an amazing team, right, you also want to use them you want to make sure they're the max amount coordinated, always improving. Amanda recently was talking about like her organization, her team runs like clockwork, right? We want to have ways of doing that. And we also want to do the same thing with our strategic plan, so that strategic planning isn't like an extra thing we have to do, but something that is fully integrated and easy to get done, and a work plan for people to follow. And we do all of this with the impact method, which is 3 parts of what has become what I call the Thrive formula. And it's how we get so much done. So part 1 is we do all these like super leveraged, highly efficient things. But part 2 is we have that expert guidance, because there are things that all of us don't know we don't know, right? Have you ever been like, well, I don't know what I don't know? Who here's ever, give me a yes. Have you ever been like, I don't know what I don't know, right? I don't know what I don't know. Well, that's where experts come in. An expert can know what you don't know, right? And there is great risk that comes with not addressing the unknown unknowns. And so we provide, that expert guidance in the Thrive program so that you don't have the risk of the unknown unknowns. And then the third thing, and this is again dealing with the type of risk, is we need quality training. Now, there's a lot of quality training for nonprofits out there, but there are actually a lot of trainings that aren't so quality. And over the years, I have found that there are a number of things that I just couldn't find good resources to give my clients. I'm seeing a big yes from Amanda. Do you have an example of like something you just couldn't learn anywhere? Maybe not. So in any case, though, the way there's risk involved with what you don't know, right? And sometimes if we're so busy, we just need a place to learn it the first time, the right time, and not have to go searching for all that information. And so by including all 3 things together, we're able to get really amazing results in the Thrive program. So how much does it cost to get started? I hope that some of you are going, yes, me. Well, I really struggle with how much do I charge for the Thrive program? How much should it cost, right? Should it cost the total value of everything you get inside the Thrive program with all the bonuses? That would be $224,000. Probably not. Should it cost what the Winkler Group charges just for strategic planning? They charge $75,000. And that's not like strategic planning done forever, like I teach everybody in the Thrive program to do. It's just once, maybe for a 3 or 5 year plan. Or maybe I should just charge what many of our clients make, many times over what the program actually costs, with just one piece of advice. Sember, just in one little strategy she followed, raised over $30,000. Maybe that's what I should charge for the program. And I've had my own mentors tell me I should charge at least $20,000. But I don't. And actually, the way to get started with the Thrive program is not free. I can't afford to do it for free, but I would if I was independently wealthy, I suppose, because it's such a pleasure. But the way to get started is actually with a free application. And in that application, I'm going to determine if you're a good fit at all for working with me and Pivot Ground. And then I'm going to also consider if the Thrive program is the best fit for you. And if it isn't, if you're not big enough yet, I'm going to make a recommendation on either another program with me or a program with somebody else that is the right fit. But either way, as a special bonus that I'm offering right now, I don't know how long I will offer this. Anybody who is approved with their application as a good fit for working with me is going to get a strategic assessment call. There's a little pre-work. We're going to do a call and you'll have something to take with you. This is worth over $780, but I've decided to do this with folks, at least for this week while this training is out, for anybody whose application is approved. So you can actually get started with the Thrive program for just $1,450 with no monthly commitment. This is a new option for all of those of you who've been living in the cheap trap and are scared and don't want to make a big commitment. You can do it without any commitment. This is the monthly fee and you can stay for as long or as not as you'd like. But if you're ready to dive in and you want to be more like Jennifer and Sherry and Amanda, and you want to dive in for the most incredible, life-changing 12 months, or maybe even more, because you can keep growing and growing, you can make a 12-month commitment and start for, actually, you can save a bunch of money, just $1,250 a month if you want to pay monthly, or if you want to save even more and pay the whole amount in full, you can. Yes, this is Sherry's second year. And if you do it this way, I'm going to just guarantee that while you're in the program, it's going to pay for itself. And I'm going to make sure that happens. If I have to put in the extra work, I will. I've never had to. I don't think, for my Thrivers here, has your investment paid for itself many times over? Yep. Jennifer told me just the other day, they're like bringing in more than paid for itself, right? So which is why I feel very comfortable guaranteeing this. So that means if you're like, oh, well, we don't have this in your budget, it doesn't need to be in your budget because it's going to pay for itself and many times more. Yep, Jennifer almost doubled her revenues. But I also put together some really, really cool bonuses, over $20,000 in bonuses here. And some of my current Thrivers are like, I want that too, right? We're going to do, so the impact method training is available on demand. You can watch as many times as you want. You can get started right away, but we're also going to do a live intensive because so many people love learning live. And I think with all the automation and AI and stuff that's going on, we need intimacy, we need live experiences, we need real people more than ever. Elaine, you have a question? You want to pop it in the chat or come off? I'll let you pop it in the chat because I'm not hearing. I'm going to go through just a couple of these bonuses because I know we are over time. The Impact Method Intensive, it's coming this fall. We will do it live. We will be doing it together. It's good even if you've learned the Impact Method, we're going to review it all together. And if it's your first time, you're going to be implementing as we go. The Live Money Intensive, I may end up changing the name to this, but this is my secret. We talked about donor-based fundraising is the best way to grow Money Pie, and the best of the best is growing Money Pie from major donors. I'm going to teach you how to do this. This is one thing I found lots of people teach major giving, but nobody teaches it the way I do, and it makes it so much easier to get started or to grow an already existing program. All the live meetings will be online. Everything will be virtual, but small group. also including as a bonus the live impact retreat. We have one coming up. It's too late to join that one, but you will be able to join the next one. This is not just for you as a CEO, but your entire board can have a board retreat with me as part of the Thrive program. We have so many templates that I've created. I'm making more all the time, right? Jennifer, just the other day, we had a conversation. Well, do you have, bye, Amanda, thank you. We have, I was like, do you have a framework for designing your programs? And she was like, no. And I was like, well, I have a framework. Let me put it together. And now I'm going to put it together as a full template. We have fundraising appeals, job descriptions, job posting, bylaws. Thousands and thousands of dollars will be saved from this. The private training, the community. I know we always talk about in Thrive how valuable the community is. It's not just me, but our other mentors, and probably the most valuable thing. I mean, I love all my Thrivers and they love working with me. They love being in the group, but people always love one-on-one mentoring. And so we do this as well. So essentially you're getting support from me twice a week, once in the group and once individually. Now we do this, I do it asynchronously. So you send me something that you want my feedback on, and I send you my feedback, usually in a video that looks like this one on the left. I will review anything that a CEO has to touch, your strategy, your marketing materials, your board communications. This means if you want me checking your strategic plans step by step as you go, you can do that. We can do that together. Job descriptions, your budget. I love looking at budgets. I think they're super fun, right? Sherry, you sent me your budget many times to look at. I've intercepted board emails. Should I send this email to my board? No, I don't think you should send that email to your board, or maybe reword it like this. Excellent. Yeah. So once again, the application is free, right? It only takes a few minutes. You don't have to like submit attachments and stuff. I'm going to ask you a few questions about your goals. You can access it right now, /application. And for anyone who's approved to work with Pivot Ground in any way, we'll get the assessment call that is only available right now while this training is up. I probably don't have room in my calendar to keep doing that indefinitely, but it will be a huge value to you. So I will stop there. I can hang around for another 15 minutes or so if anybody wants to ask more questions about the Thrive program or anything in the training. You're welcome to come off mute and ask it verbally, or you can ask it in the chat. And Sherry and Jennifer, if you have any thoughts you'd like to share, or if people have questions for them, I'm here.
I just wanted to say it's well worth it. I wrote in the chat, but you didn't see. I've contemplated quitting several times. I've been in tears. I went through horrible board drama. And if I didn't have Sarah, I would have run for the hills. I absolutely would have, but she helped me believe in myself and stick it out. And now it's taken a couple of years. That's why I'm still here. But I am finally getting to the place of thriving. So at least get on the phone call. And if you want my perspective, I've also been happy to jump on calls with people before that were considering the program. If you want to talk to me, you could definitely get connected with me through Sarah.
Thanks, Sherry.
Oh, sorry.
Anyone else have a question? I see some looks, thinking it through. Yeah, Lois.
I have a question, Sarah. I'm just thinking about timing. Right now there's just so much on my plate. I would love to I'm going to submit the assessment, but it may not be that I start right away. But I'd like to, was that something we can talk through? Like how much?
Yeah, if you really put that in your application, and we can talk about it on the assessment. What I can tell you, there are a few cases in which it is really a bad time, but mostly if you're just generally overwhelmed, the very first things that we do in the Thrive program give you more time. And so usually starting sooner rather than later is the answer to this issue. And I don't know if Jennifer or Sherry, you have some thoughts on that, because both of you felt very busy. when you
Well, I was very busy because I was a one person, everything. And so what I found that really worked was like, okay, this is a new start, let everything kind of plug along. And then I took 8 weeks to really concentrate on things, and then went on from there to continue in the Thrive program. But those 8 weeks gave me a start to where I could kind of get things rolling and not be so overwhelmed, and have a little bit of personal time, because I was working 7 days a week, 12-hour days. All right. And so then I was able to go down to 6 days a week. And now I work 6 days a week, but you know, some days are like only for a couple hours. So I've been able to cut my time down and we get more done. So my advice was, as busy as you are, unless you're doing some big event that, like Sherry's doing convention, that's a big event. I have a gala coming up. Unless you have something really big that's time, that has that date you have to do it for, try to figure it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who else has a question? Jazeel, did I say that right? I know. Mark, you look deep in thought. You guys just like hanging out with me, huh? You might be my thrivers if you like hanging out. Excellent. Well then, if there are no questions, oh, hey, Rick, I see your picture there. Nice picture with the eagle. I have a pair of bald eagles I see almost every day at my house. Excellent. All right. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Sherry, for sticking around with me and all your feedback. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.